Hello everyone, Ian here at AbelCine in Burbank, and today I am going to be checking out the audio input options for the video devices PIX-E5. We'll take a look at SDI, HDMI line inputs, as well as the optional PIX-LR attachment that provides not only the transport for your videos that are recorded to the drive up here, but also the different audio options as well. But before we do any of that, just want to look at the side of the PIX-E5 and show you the input-output options. Taking a look at the side of the PIX-E5, I've got my SDI in and out as well as the HDMI. Each of these signals is going to give us an option for different amounts of embedded discrete audio to come in, but once we get it in there, as you'll see, our routing menu gives us a lot of flexibility. There's also this 3.5mm socket for 2-channel line in. Kind of an interesting scenario there, because if you were, say, bringing in or recording from a computer screen and you didn't have embedded audio with that, you could bring it in through this socket by plugging into the headphone output on your laptop. Also above that is a 3.5mm for our headphones. And like so many other things in the PIX-E5, the headphone monitoring is very extensive. We can isolate tracks, or we can do mix, lots of different possibilities. Here we have our video feed up on screen. As you can see, there's the time code feed. That's time code coming from the camera that's being carried through the BNC. You can see 2 channels of audio active. You can also see what type of video is coming in. So I've got an SDI feed at 1080 PSF 2398 10-bit. And you can see the battery status as well. So a lot of information readily available, quickly and easily understand what's going into your PIX. I want to go into these buttons down here, and I'm going to push in on my audio. Notice lots of buttons. So, and again, another time saver, allows you to just go in and hit a button rather than have to scroll through a menu. And here you can see I have 4 channels. I've brought these in on the SDI, so you can see the first column says ARM, and notice that 1 through 4 have a red background to them, and that is telling me that they are armed or they are active. So when I go to record, these are the audio tracks that are being recorded. So here I have 4 channels of discrete audio that are being captured by the camera and being relayed through the SDI connector into the PIX, and they're being recorded as discrete tracks, just as they would be in the camera. But we can get a lot of flexibility out of this, because we can go in, for instance, and if I want to add another track, now I have SDI coming in, so that gives me the ability to have up to 8 different tracks. So if I wanted to, I could come in here on track 5, and I could allocate this. Let's say I'm going to take channel 1 and record it down here, and now you see it just became active. I could go in here and I could name it something else if I wished. And I'm going to go in here and perhaps I want to change the level at which this is going to be recorded. So now I might have track 1 being recorded at 2 different levels, which may be something that Post would like to have just as an option, because we can. More audio tracks are always better than less. And I also have in this last column something called delay. Very important to have this in here, because what can happen sometimes is that when a video signal is recorded to an external recorder, there can be a delay between the audio and the video. So what this allows us to do is to go in and address that difference so that your audio and your video are sunk up. Now this is something that has to be done. You definitely want to test this before you shoot something. And it's going to be different camera to camera, PIX to PIX. So there's no sort of magical delay offset value that's always going to work with a PIX-E5 and an FS7. It's has to be done every single time you match this to the PIX to a different camera. So important to note that, and it's important to test that and make sure that your values in those delays are correct. And last but not least, I'm going to roll down here and see I have the black background. So at this point I've set my values, but I'm not recording it. So I'm going to go back up here, roll over, and I'm going to turn it on. And as soon as I do that, now you see I have the red background, and now all 5 tracks would be recorded. And we're back in. This time we're doing HDMI input in, and you can see there's the time code from the camera, there's our audio. Everything looks pretty much like it did before, right? And there's the input for the HDMI at 2398. This time it's 1080p, not PSF, but it is 2398. It is 10-bit. I wanted to bring up what you're looking at on the screen of the PIX is the camera menu from the FS7. Wanted to show you this because of the caveat that we're running into. And specifically, take a look at this. See where it says down here, HDMI output channel. Let me go down and highlight that. And notice I have channel 1 and 2. But I am actually recording 4 channels of audio from or to the camera, but the HDMI is only taking 2 channels out. So I have a choice here. I could do channel 1 and 2 or channel 3 and 4. So given these circumstances, let's go into our menu on the PIX. And you can see, sure enough, track 1 and 2 are armed, and you can see my audio coming in through the HDMI. But remember, I said, we can do up to 4 channels with this camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of what the PIX can do, and I'm going to simply replicate channel 1 and 2. So I'm going to come down to channel 3, and I'm going to roll over to here, and I'm going to say use HDMI channel 1, and I'm going to roll over here and I'm going to make it active, turn it on. So there it's armed, and I'm going to come into number 4, and I'll take HDMI channel 2, and I'll put that in there, and I'm going to arm that. Now notice everything is coming in, everything is, as far as the level, is identical. We have the same gain for everything. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go into track 3, and I'm going to change the gain on that. And I'll lower it down, let's say -9. And I'm going to go to track 4, and I'll do the same thing. All right, so now I have 4 channels active. I've simply taken 1 and 2, allocated them to 3 and 4, and I've changed the gain. So again, editorial can get to get a duplicate of the inbound tracks, but record at different levels. So maybe if there's a pop or unforeseen loud moment in the audio, tracks 3 and 4 would allow us to potentially recover that moment that could have been lost due to clipping. And here we have the PIX-LR attached to the E5, and I have put a line level into it. The LR has 2 XLRs, 2 sets of XLRs for input and output, and notice on the right hand side of the LR the line diode has lit up, indicating in fact I do have line level. But I want to look at the menus just so you're clear as to what you're seeing. So if I go in here and I go to the audio menu, notice that XLR1 is line level. Of course I have the usual suspects here. And also note your output source. So output from the XLR can be discrete tracks, or it can be a mono or stereo mix of all tracks. And at the very bottom, notice you have a meter and I can change what I'm going to look at. So for instance, if I change the track 1 and 2, now you can see both channels are lit up. That is monitoring the feed or the audio feed for the SDI coming in from the camera. I'm going to change that back to my XLR, which is my line level, and now you see it jump back to my line level coming in. So sometimes it can be a little confusing. Important just to note what you're actually looking at where. I'm going to go into the menus that we saw before, and what I did here was I have 1 through 4 is the SDI feed from the camera, and I just doubled up on the XLR one for 5 and 6. So I have 2 recordings of the same line level input from my 633 that I'm just feeding a line level in. Also note on the gain for the XLR ones, they are grayed out. So if I went in and tried to change the gain like I did with the SDI, it wouldn't work. You have to use the encoder here on the LR in order to affect a change in the level. All right, the last thing you want to just note, so I'm going to go out of here, and the other part of this is we have a jack on the side for our headphones. Well, what do you know, or how can you affect change in how you want to hear what you're monitoring out of this? If I push down on the menu for about 2 seconds, I'm able to go in here and I'm going to push in and I'm going to go to this thing that says HP source, headphone source, and I can go in there and now I can make a choice as to what I want to monitor. Also notice that there is in this menu a backlight for the monitor, but also notice at the far right you can change the sensitivity of the LEDs on the LR as well. That wraps up my look at audio input options for the video devices PIX-E5. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.